Welcome, folks, back to Dominant Mets Nation. Well, folks, the question is you saw the title. Is a trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. imminent? And, folks, I know, many times in the past you've told me you don't like the word imminent, but please hear me out because I want you to know what my logic is for Vladimir Guerrero to a team like the Mets being imminent. Okay, we know Guerrero has made an ultimatum to the Blue Jays saying, if you want to sign me, here's my number. You have till the beginning of spring training or else trade me. That's it. Bottom line, that's it. Here's my number. Sign me. Spring training deadline. Folks, let's look at the evidence. Let's look at the plain and simple facts. Plain and simple facts here. Vladimir Guerrero right now wants to take advantage of the hottest market in all of baseball. It is historically hot because of the Juan Soto contract, signing that historic deal with the Mets. We all know the number, $765 million. That was now, and that has bumped up the value of Vladimir Guerrero tremendously. Tremendously. Right now, Vladdy wants to piggyback on that. His value is up right now. So he has conveyed, pay me now. Here's my number. Why is spring training the deadline? Okay, what Vladdy wants to do, again, take advantage of the Juan Soto market now. He doesn't want to have another at bat without signing. I'll tell you that, folks, because of a couple of reasons. First of all, 2023, Vladdy, okay year, but a down year. 26 home runs, 94 RBIs, 264 batting average. 2024, very good year. 30 home runs, 103 RBIs, 323 batting average. This is the type of season where you want to sign a contract coming off of. We see a guy like Pete Alonso have a very down year, and you see how the marketplace can be very skittish. Very skittish. So, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. does not want to take chances. I don't blame him. He will, and I repeat, will force the hands of the Toronto Blue Jays. As time ticks on, the value of Vladimir Guerrero in terms of return gets less and less. The Blue Jays have all the incentive in the world to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. before the season starts as well. So that's it. Who can afford Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Well, there's just a few handful of teams. I surmise Vladimir Guerrero Jr., based on the rumors, wants a contract of about around $500 million or more. I don't think it's going to take the years. I don't think people project Guerrero for a 15, 16-year contract. I may be wrong. But if you can get a Guerrero Jr. for a 10-year, $500 million contract or a 12-year, $560 million contract, is that something that will entice Steve Cohen? I think so, because Steve Cohen and the New York Mets are in. They want to be the Dodgers of the NL East, folks, and the Dodgers go after those generational power bats, those guys in their mid 20s, those guys that you can build your team around. Now we know the Dodgers have done good, gotten Betts, Freeman, Shohei Ohtani. The Mets can build their own superstar nucleus of Juan Soto, Guerrero, Lindor, and that's it. That's what they can do. And then I know I have a bunch of folks, rightfully so, saying, what about the pitching? Pitching these days are very fickle. Within the approach of David Stearns and this pitching lab, guys are interchangeable, to so to speak. And also, Pitching rotations can change on a dime, folks. Change on a dime. It's just a year and a half, and the Dodgers have basically changed their whole pitching staff around into, almost all Cy Youngs. Within the last year and a half, you acquire Yamamoto, you acquire Shohei Ohtani, you acquire Glass now, you acquire Blake Snell. So it's not out of the realm for the New York Mets to acquire pitching and acquire it quickly. Acquire it quickly if they are willing to give up the right cost, right? So you sign these guys, these mega free agents like Soto, like Vladimir Guerrero, and that makes some of these prospects expendable. That way you can ship those off for said pitching. Okay, makes all the sense in the world. What are other potential hurdles? Well, one of the biggest potential hurdle is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. willing to sign the contract now, or does he want to go to a bidding war next year? We already determined this is the hot market. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has already said he will sign now. Steve Cohen, that is music to the man's ears. I won't have a bidding war. I could trade for the guy, and the guy's willing to pull a Francisco Lindor. All right, you know what? And folks, the package for a Mr. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will not be that Juan Soto package from a couple years ago. It just will not. He doesn't carry the same value. If you look at the baseball trade value, that calculator, I believe when Soto was on the trade block, his value was around 65 trade surplus. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is only at 25. Only at 25. Even if some say, he gets an extra point and a half and you give him a value of 35, I mean, the deal could get done around. I mean, you want to send a Clifford, you want to send a Mauricio, you want to send one or two other players, a Blade Tidwell. You could build that package very easily without touching a Jet Williams, without touching a Brandon Sprout. I mean, and you glock up and secure one of the most dynamic young superstars in the game to couple that with Soto, Lindor, and Guerrero. I mean, honestly, folks, how could you not sign up for that? How could you not be excited? And like I said, pitching wise, yes, it's a work in progress. But folks, we have options. You got guys like Sprout. You have a bunch of international guys coming up each and every year. If the Mets do their due diligence and build their pitching lab and their scouting, folks, that will be taken care of. And you saw the pitching staff make strides last year. And don't forget, Sean Manaea, he may not be all world, but at least he's here for 3 years. At least we have a solid answer in the pitching department for somebody who will anchor the rotation for the next 3 years. Okay, folks. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes. And before I do that, I just want to continue to thank you. This is actually our 2-year anniversary. How insane is that? I started up doing this channel in late December of 2022, when the Carlos Correa signing was afoot and the Mets were rumored to sign him. That eventually fell through, but that really inspired me to get the channel going. I mean, you'll find 6 months earlier, I did a couple quick 30-second videos in the car commenting on the Mets. I didn't really get started until late December. So I just like to thank you on celebrating 2 years with you. It's been fun. Continue to smash that like button. If you are new, please join us. And if you just joined the channel, thank you so much for being a part of Dominant Mets Nation. The fun has just begun and the journey has just started, and it will be just magical, ride with you all. So thank you in advance. Okay, so let's get into Pete Alonso. And I've been posing, many questions about the polar bear. Many questions. 2 days ago, I posted, all the Mets treating Mr. Pete Alonso fairly? And based on the commentary, and we got a couple hundred comments. I thank you all for that feedback. And I would say it's about 80-20. 80% saying we're treating him fair, 20% saying we're treating him not fair. And I'm not here to judge. I'm interested in what everybody has to say. I have my opinions, but I love to hear counter positions. And some people make that counter argument very, very enticing and really kind of sways me as well. So, continue that feedback. And my second question is Pete Alonso being greedy, in some way? And honestly, that's kind of not a fair question because, we're talking about ridiculous sums of money. All players could be construed as being greedy at this point. And also you have these owners making 10, 20 times what these players are. So, it wasn't the fairest question. But I like the feedback that I got. I really did. Now, now, the latest news was a couple days ago. This is how the story went. The Mets made an offer to Pete Alonso, 3 years, $90 million. Thus far, the only team that has made offers to Pete Alonso in his camp were the New York Mets. Two offers to be exact. 1 year ago, they a little over 1 year ago, they offered a 7-year contract in the range of $156 million. That would make Pete Alonso a lifetime Met. He turned that down. Okay, he thought he was worth more, went through the 24 season and, had his worst season of his career, which is, why I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Doesn't want to risk it, wants to take advantage of a hot market. Pete Alonso didn't have that luxury. He wasn't a free agent last year. Okay, and the fact that he's a free agent this year is also another credit to the Mets. When he was a rookie, the Mets didn't mess around with his time. They brought him up early in April so that he can go to free agency a year earlier and the Mets could take advantage of that magical rookie season. So it worked out for both sides, treating Pete Alonso the correct way. All right. So after the Pete Alonso got the 3-year, $90 million offer with opt-outs after the first and second year, it seemed like a fair deal because that would have Pete making the highest. He would be the highest paid first baseman out of all the first basemen, folks. Right now, without Guerrero getting his contract, he'd be making more than Guerrero, more than Harper, more than Freeman, more than Olsen, more than all the other top free agents, and he'd be getting that contract over the next 3 years. Based on my research, there aren't many long-term contracts even given out to first basemen in general. In the last 30 years, I found like 4 or 5 instances in which a long-term contract was given out to a player that is 30 years or older. And many of those contracts didn't work out. You got Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera, Ryan Howard. These guys fizzle out after age 30, 32. I mean, it's Mother Nature. These guys are big, plodding guys. They are not athletic. They have not gotten, where they were because of, their physical kind of athleticness. Yes, they have that power gene, but that seems to fizzle out. When the bat speed goes, then your timing goes, and it's been a rough situation. Okay, so Pete turned down that 3-year, $90 million contract. Now you ask yourself, why would Pete continually turn down the New York Mets, right? So my instant reaction was, okay, the guy, number one, has had no market. It's been plain as day, has no market, right? All of a sudden, Pete turns down that contract, and the next day you hear the Giants are interested, the Mariners are interested, the Nationals are interested. All of a sudden, he turns down an offer, and all of a sudden, there's a market, right? So, number one, he turns down the money because there's other teams interested, right? I don't think that's the case. I think he turned down the money and Boris tried to generate or create a market through news stories, through potential rumors, but that's, in my opinion, not factual. Not factual. And that is a folly of Scott Boras. He's, kind of done that in the past with other players, Bellinger, Snell. Hasn't worked. You cannot create what's not there. The Mets offered fair money. They offered fair money. The Nationals just went out, signed Josh Bell, 32-year-old Josh Bell, 1 year, $6 million deal. That's it. 2 years older than Pete Alonso. The guy, I mean, Pete Alonso's a better player, but at least the Nationals got a viable option, and they didn't have to invest 150, $200 million. That's the deal, folks. When you assess value on a player, and I hear, okay, let me bring this up because this is a very this is kind of what inspired me to come on at 2:20 in the morning. So there's two sides to the Pete Alonso equation. Okay, so here is the pro Pete side, and it's by I saw this on X, and I'm not saying this is bad. This is good. I'm just giving the two sides. This is one side, and this is what people are saying. Here's how it goes. Mets gave Juan Soto a ton of money plus perks, but are treating Pete like dog crap. Nice. 90 million is an insult. Homegrown star? Just imagine if the Wilpons had done this to David Wright, they'd be getting raked over the coals. Since it's King Cohen, he gets a pass. That's a load of crap. Now, before I give you my opinion, now let me give you the response and the other side. The other side states the Mets finally have an owner who wants to bring a World Series to Queens and is willing to spend, and yet he gets so much crap for it. Also, the only person who reported 90 million was Carlos Baerga, who is far from reliable. Baseball is a business. The Mets shouldn't just give Alonso what he wants and be reckless just because he's Pete Alonso. I want him back too. I really do. I think a lot of Mets fans want him back, but we have to trust the process here. It has to be a reasonable and fair contract. Okay, so that on X were the two people going at it, and now here are some of the commentaries responding to both sides. Okay, all right. Now this is attacking the pro Pete side. The fact that this person only cares about records and not championships is telling. This is another one attacking the pro Pete side. 30 million a year is a lot. I agree with you all on the count, but when you give someone who never played a game in the Mets uniform 765 million, this is what happened. 765 is an overpay. Okay, I mean that's just more kind of like BS. Another person, 90 million is an overpay. Okay, so those were the two sides. I wanted to present it to you because it seems like there's a big debate in Mets Nation right now. Mets Nation. And I would say a big part of Mets Nation is reactionary to a very underwhelming Pete Alonso season, right? I would say a good portion of Mets Nation would take Pete back at that value contract at that right price because you want, as long as there's less risk to the Mets long term, the Mets can work with it. I say 3 years, $90 million contract. Opt outs after each of those couple of years works out for both sides because, Pete could produce like a madman. That'll help the Mets. Opt out. Mets have other options. And if he decides to stay, the Mets can still fulfill needs at first base. They could still get a guy like Guerrero. They could still get, that the Japanese sensational first baseman. And they could still do other things and move Pete Alonso to DH. It keeps the options open. If the Mets sign Pete Alonso to a long-term contract at around $200 million, like the Boris camp wants, that is not good business. Now, when I talk about good business, I talk about a couple things. I talk about a value a player has to a particular franchise. That's his value on the field, defensively, offensively, in the clubhouse. And then there's also return on investment, right? How marketable is the player? Jersey sales, ticket sales, commercial, internationally. How much do I make on this player? What do I mean? Juan Soto, there was a reason why there were 5 teams bidding over 765 million. Value-wise, his on-field value is through the roof. He's a guy you can build a World Series team around, and he could be that cornerstone linchpin piece. He's a guy who gives the pitcher hell. He's a guy who makes your lineup better. He's a guy you could build around. Off the field, he helps your international, he helps your branding, he helps you all around the world. Your team get recognized, your team gets known. The Mets, ticket sales wise, has had the best weeks selling tickets after Juan Soto. The Juan Soto jersey could be the best selling jersey in all of baseball. The return on investment on Juan Soto may not be as high as Shohei Ohtani, but it is far greater, far more valuable than Pete Alonso. Right? Which is why teams were willing to pay over $700 million, which is why 8 teams were willing to pay over $600 million, and which is why 12 teams were in on the Juan Soto sweepstakes, and which is why if you juxtapose that with the Pete Alonso sweepstakes, nobody is interested except for the New York Mets, and that is the team that many Mets fans have a problem with. So, I mean, those are the facts. I'm trying to be as neutral as possible, but I'm also trying to be fair, factual, and present you with all the information. Now, let me give you the latest Giants report because earlier today, you had a lot of people had Pete going over to the Giants, right? So I want to give you both sides. I want to give you what is out there, and I also want to give you obstacles to Pete signing a deal with the Giants. Because ironically, timing wise, all of a sudden the Giants are interested right after Pete Alonso turns down that $90 million deal, right? So now the Giants are interested after they already locked up Matt Chapman, after they already locked up a couple significant contracts. Okay, so they want to invest in Pete. So let's look at that right now. Okay. So, as reported by Giants insider Susan Slusher of the San Francisco Chronicle, the Giants remain in the market for a first baseman or DH. And the four-time All-Star Pete Alonso, who has hit 226 home runs in 6 seasons with the Mets, is on their radar, Slusher wrote. Currently, Lamont Wade Jr. is expected to be the team's primary first baseman. The Giants were also expected to bump up young prospect Bryce Elridge, who is set to make his AAA debut this season, to share the workload with at first base. Okay, so I mean that just kind of tells me, okay, they're in the market, but they already have backup, cheaper options. So the obstacles. What are the possible obstacles to San Francisco Giants signing Pete Alonso? Well, Pete Alonso hit 80 home runs in the last 2 seasons, but it was an average of just 229. He is looking to get back into his usual slugging self, but for that, Oracle Park might not be the best destination. The ballpark is considered a tough place to hit for right-handed sluggers. Folks, Oracle Park is a place right-handed hitters, sluggers particularly, have run away from, run scared of. If Pete Alonso is a guy who signed any type of contract with an opt-out, he's not going to go to the Giants. He's not going to the Giants unless the Giants do something silly and give him a $200 million offer, which they wouldn't do because the last offer was $90 million. No way they're going to more than double or almost triple that offer. Okay, so moreover, the Giants will have to give up another draft pick as Alonso had declined a qualifying offer from the Mets. Very important, folks. They have to give up another draft pick. They already gave up 3 draft picks signing Willie Adames, extending Matt Chapman this season, and signing Blake Snell in the previous year. Folks, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Plus, the Mets already made that $90 million very strong offer. Could the Giants match or go beyond that? If the Giants match that, why the hell would Pete Alonso go across country? The Giants would have to blow that contract out of the water. A contract that is extremely fair and extremely more than market value. So, I mean, that's why I think it's highly unlikely. And the other teams that, were mentioned by John Heyman, my guy John Heyman, were the Mariners, were the Nationals, were smaller market teams teams that I can't see Pete Alonso going to, especially since he supposedly wants to be on a winning ball club, and teams who just don't have the financial resources. So at the end of the day, I'm going to conclude like this. The New York Mets, by going after Teoscar Hernandez, by going after Jock Peterson, by potentially being interested in a Bregman, by trying to bring back Pete Alonso, tell you that they are interested in improving their offense in a tremendous way. They already have Juan Soto in tow, but it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. If they got Teoscar Hernandez, they were still going to go after Pete Alonso. So you would essentially have Teo and Pete Alonso. If you get Pete Alonso, you're still going to need to fill that DH spot. And the Mets have been notoriously bad at getting production from the DH spot. Do I have to say Daniel Vogelbach one more time? I mean, that was pathetic, that was putrid, and that was unacceptable. If this is the year when the New York Mets deem their chance to cement themselves as World Series contenders now and in the future, dynasty was the word that Juan Soto used. They will, I repeat, will make substantial moves to improve their offense. They're telegraphing it right now. Right now, it's blatantly obvious. Whether they get Juan Soto, they already have. Whether they get Pete Alonso in tow, they will continue to beef up that offense. I predict if if it's something that contract wise, if and I got to know that let's say the Vladimir Guerrero contract demand, you got to know that Steve Cohen and his people know what that number is, and if they think that number is attainable, you got to know that they will move heaven and earth if they want to pair those two together. And it seems to be all about pairing these superstars, pairing these players, and making your lineup that formidable. Well, folks, it seems like we've come to an end. Um, a one play I didn't talk about, and I'm kind of debating talking about him, was Anthony Santander. He's a guy, he's a power bat. He had 44 home runs this year in Baltimore. Nice player, but he's a guy I would really want on a very short term contract, very reasonable contract. He's a guy that has been very inconsistent. So I would like to explore other options. Those options were raw. I mean, I'd say probably the safest option is, and you want to get Guerrero, you pair him with Soto, Alvarez, Lindor in the lineup, Nimmo, Vientos, list goes on and on. I think it's trying to get Bregman on a 4-year deal. It's trying to get Bregman on a 4-year deal. Guerrero, he has that gold glove at first. Bregman, gold glove at third. Lindor, gold glove at short. I mean, that's a good infield. And Guerrero has kind of gone down at first base, in the last couple of years, but still, he's a young player. He's a young player. So, folks, that is where we're going to stop. Thank you so much. Continue to like and subscribe, and we will continue to bring you as many videos as possible, as many updates as possible. We will speak to you soon. Have a great day. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. You are the best. Thank you to all our new members. Our memberships are live and active. If you'd like to support the channel and become a member, we have some great options for you. Thank you to all those new legends out there. You know who you are. Thank you so much. Have a great night.